So thanks for dropping by the Animal House.
Sure, good luck in your project. Yeah.
Techno.
Take this thing out of my belly button here. Step up a little bit more, Ralph. In fact, if you want to sit on the table and get casual.
Get those shoes.
Yeah, let's do a pan up.
They're
Keeps harassing me about this.
no, they're wonderful. I think they're great.
I bought them right here.
They're absolutely all correct.
They're very comfortable. Are we rolling? Okay, let's do it. So I'm not supposed to look into the camera, is that the deal?
No, I think you can look into the camera. Basically ignore them, but look at them every once in a while. Well, so you've been hitting this conference pretty hard. Have you come across any stunning insights?
Well, actually, I came here beginning of last week, because I was doing a workshop in Munich, and then I took the night train here, and I just spent about 3 or 4 days here before the conference, because I wanted to see the conference. So my main experience is actually the experience of Prague. I mean, the conference, if it wasn't in Prague, I probably wouldn't go to it, because the speakers I've all heard before, but I have not heard the Eastern Europeans. So I'm mostly interested in networking with the Eastern Europeans and really getting a sense of Prague, which is, to me, like a very impressive city. And then this whole political thing is happening where the country is dissolving its two parts in a relatively peaceful way. I think it's an incredibly dramatic thing that's happening. I mean, they're demonstrating how to do it. You know, unlike the Yugoslavs, their neighbors were demonstrating how not to do it. And some of the figures that Stan, I don't know if you heard his talk on the opening night when he was saying that Czechoslovakia has only lived without foreign rule for 25 years out of the last 300. I mean, that's an incredible statistic.
That's incredible.
And to think that somehow they have managed, I mean, they've demonstrated in this whole century, you know, in such incredible political sensitivity and flair, really.
For
and
survival.
Humor. Yeah, humor
Yes.
and flair for survival. And I've been reading Václav Havel's talks, whom I feel very close to, and I was thinking about, and I visited this memorial for that student John Palak, you know, who incinerated himself in 1968 or 69, after the Russians clamped back down,
Right.
and basically the whole Prague Spring was killed, squelched, and you know, the lid came back on after this 2 or 3 year period of gradual thawing and gradual opening up and people breathing free for the first time for 20 years. And then whammo, and then this to me struck me as a gesture of like it was really like devotional self-sacrifice to an ideal. It was like what the ancient Celtic and Germanic people used to do. In terms of, and in a similar circumstances, like when they felt that they were like being invaded or conquered or beaten up or oppressed, and they felt that somehow their gods were against them, and so they would do a voluntary self-sacrifice, you know, and this guy did that, you know? And Havel keeps talking about that. He keeps talking about, I don't have a right to ask anybody else to lay down their life or do any kind of a commitment. But that to me is a very live issue. Like, what commitment am I willing to make? You know, am I willing to lay down my life? Am I willing to go to jail for what I believe in? I can't ever ask it for somebody else. So here's a person who's really thinking the kinds of ethical questions that people never think about. Never. You know, and I was impressed by the fact that back in 1985 he was already talking about anthropocentrism, and which is the whole key to what I'm talking about these days, this kind of humanist superiority complex. The main point I was trying to make in my talk today was that there's this humanism, the humanist tradition, which is the glory of Western European civilization, is really the shadow side of that, which was not intended and not realized at the beginning when Renaissance humanism started, because these people like Marsilio Ficini and those people, I mean, they were trying to free themselves from 1,000 years of medieval Catholicism, and man are just nothing but sinners and miserable worms on the earth, and they said, no, human beings are worthwhile and noble, and
man is the measure
of all things. But then implicit in that was the view that man is superior to animals.
Right.
And that then gradually kind of fed into the whole idea of man is superior to animals. That means we can do with animals whatever we want to, and it kind of just reinforced that whole belief system.
So it was a provisional idea that should have been replaced by a kind of ecological ethic in the 19th century that
they shouldn't have taken. They took it. Yeah, they took it too far, I think. See, the basic idea, yes, man is worthwhile, is true, but they didn't. Man's worth shouldn't be dependent on the lower worth of somebody else, like the other species.
The hierarchy of worth.
Right. But doing it that way meant that humanism then becomes exactly analogous to sexism and racism and classism, in each of which you have one group of people who say, we're better than others, this other group, and therefore we have the right to use and exploit and dominate and control and push these others around every way we please. And that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. You can say, yes, human beings are worthwhile, women are worthwhile, men are worthwhile too, and the working classes are great, and so are the...
So no hierarchy of worth.
No hierarchy of worth.
Generalized affirmation.
Which doesn't mean you can't have division of labor and division of function and specialization of functions and all that. But don't attribute that, and also specialized role. Yes, human beings have a special role on the planet, but then so do whales, and so do trees, and so do coral reefs, and invertebrate marine animals.
Well, so would you say that probably what we're trying to do is define our special role, and that it's not industrial manufacture of everything, but more like gardener caretaker.
Gardener caretaking, and I think true science. I think I go back to the biblical thing, because in the Bible there are actually two sets of instructions from God to man. One of them is, you shall subdue the earth and have dominion and do that whole thing. And that was been interpreted as domination. And but there's another set of instructions in the Yahwist Bible. See, that's the priestly version. The older version, the Yahwist version, which is not the 6 days of creation. It's God created man directly out of the clay, breathed life into him, and then created the animals and made the garden. And then he brought all the animals to Adam and said, you name them. Whatever you name them, that's what they'll be. So the naming function. See, I think human beings are the nerve cells of the planet. And the nerve cells function to interpret, analyze, categorize, name. That's the one thing humans do that animals don't do. They don't give names. They have consciousness. It's totally different. They don't use symbolic categories, as far as we know. I mean, they can, but as far as we know,
the nervous system is the rapid response system.
Right.
And certainly that's where
that would be like green. That would be, to me, green science. So observational science, non-interventional science not bent to technology and exploitation, except insofar as is necessary to maintain life. Animals eat other animals, and so you have the right to do that, but you don't have the right to
cut down
abuse and to take more than you need.
Right.
You don't have the right to, and you don't generate waste. Like the primal cultures, they didn't generate. They used all they took, and they didn't generate waste, and they didn't take more than they needed. And they didn't make profit. They didn't do it for profit. They just did it to live. And with that kind of a system and that kind of an attitude, you have a sustainable economy.
Well, so this is one more reason for thinking about semi-archaic solutions to modern social problems.
That's right.
Abandoning science seems to be abandoning consumerism, capitalism.
I don't think it means abandoning science. I don't even think it means abandoning technology. I think it means redirecting technology.
No, I agree. It's consumerism that has to be.
That's right. Consumerism is like a collective addiction. More and more goods for more and more people. That's basically the slogan.
At greater and greater cost, and cost to the sum total of everything.
Profit-driven. It's not really need-driven.
I hear you.
I think Riane Eisler, that was the key thing in her book, was that the level of culture does not equate to the level of technology. The technology can be sophisticated as all get out, and the culture is primitive, and that's what we have. Versus, you take the Australian Aboriginals or the Minoan Cretans, their level of culture, technology was much lower than ours, but the level of culture was
much higher,
far superior.
Right? No, well,
including things like education, levels of, no poverty, no unemployment, no crime, all these kind of things. So, then technology needs to be redirected away from the military towards restoration and preservation and restoration of the environment. There's more than enough challenges there to keep all the Star Wars guys and
everybody
busy
else
for the next millennium, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Ralph.
So I'm having a good time.
Good. I'm glad you're having a good time. That's a good rave. You'll see yourself in lights at a theater near you someday soon.
Yes.
So thanks for dropping by the Animal House.
Sure. Good luck in your project. Yeah.
Techno.
Take this thing out of my belly button here.